Hello everyone, Wise Gamer here, and we are back with Interview with a Dev. Today we're talking to Ryan Shaw, lead developer for Kitatus Studios, who's working on an awesome new title, Super Distro vs. Galaximo's Army.
Hello everyone, how are you all?
I think we're all doing pretty good, Ryan. So Super Distro is a really cool game. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, but it looks like we're going to be launching on PC, Mac, Linux, and then you might be looking into mobile games as well with even like Ouya, Amazon Fire TV, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. We've got two versions of the game, but to just sum it up, because it sounds a bit confusing at the moment, Super Distro will be PC, Mac, and Linux, or Linux, or whatever the name is this week. And the mobile versions, which is just normal Distro Horizons, will be on any mobile under the sun that we can think of, as well as Ouya, GameStick, and the Amazon Fire HD, or whatever that's called this week.
Wow, yeah, no, that's really great too, and yeah, I completely agree, especially with Ouya. So many people say it different ways. So you're looking at having the game come out this summer, right?
Yeah, it's hopefully going to launch on my birthday, which is July the 26th.
Okay, well that would definitely be a good birthday present to you to get to relax a little bit with a good release, hopefully.
Exactly, and actually have a good night's sleep for once.
Yeah, definitely. So then to get kind of started then, before we get too much into the game, how would you say you kind of got started with indie gaming to begin with?
Well, I've been creating games ever since I was, well, I think 10 or 11, making simple Flash games for Newgrounds, which were all extremely terrible. And over the years, I've slowly been figuring out why they were terrible and working on it and working on it and working on it. And then I found out about 3D game dev isn't actually as crazy and possible as I once thought it was. I picked up Unity a good few years back, and I was like, "This is awesome! I can actually finally do the things I've been dreaming of doing when I was a kid." And then I kind of just built up a little private portfolio of little prototypes that I thought would work. Then I found out that with the indie scene, I randomly stumbled on it on Twitter one day and realized that it's actually a thing. People actually just, you don't need massive $1 million budgets, and you don't need to be like indie famous like Phil Fish or what's the name of the person that did Braid? Uh,
Oh my gosh, I can't remember right now either.
yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Or
But
you can say like Marcus Pearson or anything like that too. But
yeah, exactly. You don't need to be a giant superstar to release your games and create the games that you want to create. You can just have a good idea, make the game you love to play, and then just let other people enjoy your idea. And that's really the thought that made me think, like, wow, this can actually be my job. This can be my lifestyle. And now here we are.
Jonathan Blow, by the way, right?
That's it, yes.
Yeah, I knew it would come to me. So then, yeah, that's really great. So who would you say some of the inspirations were then? Did you kind of look at like Phil Fish and Jonathan Blow and people like that and say, wow, that's great that they did their own little project and it took off like this? Or
Kind of, but I think people that look at Phil Fish and say that makes me want to make indie games would kind of be the wrong idea to have, because he has been very controversial, because obviously the things he says is his personal opinion, and then the media blow it out of proportion because they see him as this big indie superstar, and then he gets angry that blown out of proportion. But he makes great games, I'm not gonna lie, but he hasn't really been my personal inspiration. For inspiration wise, I think two people that stick out in particular would be Hideo Kojima and Edmund, I can't say his name, Edmund Macmillan, I think it was, that part of Team Meat.
oh yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I think with Hideo Kojima, it's not necessarily his whole movies can be games or games can be movies. It was the fact that no matter, because if you follow his backstory, people at Konami, when he was originally had the idea of Metal Gear, they laughed at him and they told him to make something or they're going to fire him, and he made the game he wanted to. And people, well, you can still see Metal Gear Solids coming out year after year, so obviously
Yeah,
he did
definitely.
something right.
Exactly.
And the fact that Metal Gear Solid was one of the main games I was playing growing up, like, it was, for me, it was starting on the Mega Drive and then, whoa, look at these 3D graphics of Metal Gear Solid, and then it's wanting to explore games more, so getting an N64 and a Dreamcast and pretty much every console I could get my hands on, just because I was so addicted to all these experiences that you could do with playing games.
Yeah, definitely. I completely understand. I know before we started the interview, we talked about some of the development I've done in the past, which has not been that great either. Also doing Newgrounds and things like that, mostly Flash games. But yeah, I think that that whole switch that kind of turns on when you say, wait, there's actually like an indie community that does this. I always thought that if I wanted to make games, I was going to have to go work for EA or something like that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can really do it on your own and just enjoy your time and actually make something out of it. Not so much that you want to make money off of it, but just have people enjoy your content. You can do most of it by yourself or with a really small team, which is completely mind-blowing to me.
Exactly. I
Go
definitely
ahead.
think that's one. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. That's definitely one of the main reasons I want to do it because, as I've said to plenty of people, if Super Distro made no money, I'd still be happy because people are experiencing something that originally I dreamt about, and I said, you know, well, this would be a cool game. And then if people say it's a terrible game, I could say, well, at least you tried it.
Yeah, definitely. At least people are playing it and they're getting to experience it still. So
Yeah.
you were talking about the different consoles that you played and everything, and I know you mentioned N64 and Dreamcast kind of being home to you. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the planned features that you have, and I know you have a special announcement also that you wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, basically, the game originally started development as an N64 style platformer, so collecting items, hub world, to collect enough items to defeat the main boss and going to the next stage collecting items. And with the recent surge in N64 style games in the indie scene, it kind of felt like it's brilliant to see N64 style games becoming big again, but at the same time, it's going to be extremely hard to retain the fun factor in distro when there's so many of the same type of game available. Like if you had 100 fighting games, you're gonna find the one that was the most fun and stood out from the rest. And personally, I've seen so many N64 style platformers in the indie scene at the moment, which look so much better than personally I could ever come up with, and I'm so not afraid to admit that. Some of the stuff people are working on have blown my mind, and it kind of made me take a step back with Super Distro and think, right, Super Distro is fun, but how can I make it fun that people will finish playing and remember it instead of saying, oh, it's just another N64 style platformer? And so I dug deep in my soul and I went on a spiritual quest in the wilderness. So I just went out to the shops and got a few energy drinks.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, like, growing up, what were the extremely fun games? And it hit me. Yeah, the M64 games were amazing, and they're pretty much part of my gaming childhood. But the Dreamcast, that was phenomenal, and Sonic Adventure in particular was a game that I'll never forget. Especially well, you can't forget it now because it's like on every console under the sun again. But even though it was terribly cheesy, and even though it hasn't aged well, the gameplay behind it is something that's always stuck in my mind for some reason. And then it literally just naturally clicked. Why not bring the Collectathon N64 style game and the Dreamcast platformers together to do something that I'm not sure has been done before, but it's something that would suit the idea of Super Distro perfectly, because you get the speed and the streamlinedness of a Dreamcast style platformer with the collectathon exploration of an N64 style platformer, and that just feels like a natural fit. So if it works, it works, and people play it and say, you know, well, this works, and if it doesn't, I'll probably get plenty of hate mail.
Okay, so our announcement is that Super Distro is not going to be just your standard N64 platform, but you're also going to have a lot of fun coming from things we were talking a little bit again before the interview, from Sonic Adventure, Spyro the Dragon, a little bit inspired there, some of the artwork such as talked about, just drew a blank, Radio.
Yeah. A lot of the artwork style of things. So we've got the gameplay style is kind of a mix of, this is going to sound really weird mix, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Kazooie, meeting up and making good friends with Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, and then all having a baby with Sly Cooper. Sprinkling on top a bit of Jet Set Radio and Sly Cooper again for visuals. And hopefully it should be fun with Sonic the Hedgehog as the godfather of it all, as the nice little extended family tree. Hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yeah, no, it really looks great. I mean, I've seen a lot of the concept videos that you've had. You shared some of the concept art with me and everything too, and I really enjoyed the artwork that you have. I think the characters are really well developed. The worlds are looking really good as well. Like I saw some of the wireframe test modes you were doing, and when you put it back to the real world, there's just so much of a living, breathing environment there, which is really missing in a lot of the games, even by big developers. Is you miss that living environment where you really feel like you're part of something bigger when you're playing the game.
Exactly. That is the Neo Tokyo level, and that, I'm not gonna lie, that is heavily inspired by two things, and that's Blade Runner and Time Splitters 2. And one thing I noticed when I was watching Blade Runner is even if the Harrison Ford's character was to die, the world still goes on. Like, people are still cooking food, taxis are still going, everything still goes on. And it kind of just clicked that, you know, the world shouldn't depend on the character. The world should be alive and around the character, and the character's in the living world. It shouldn't be the other way around, and that's kind of the idea for the whole game, but that level in particular.
Yeah, I love that you said Blade Runner. Like, I was trying to think where I've seen that type of scenery before, and you said Blade Runner, and that just hits it perfectly.
Yeah, that was that was probably the main inspiration with the train sequence from Time Splitters 2 as well. Like, the whole train station start of that level is pretty much, I'm not gonna lie, the biggest rip-off of Time Splitters 2 I could get away with without the ghost of Free Radical coming up from its grave and suing my ass.
Wow. Well, yeah, definitely looking forward to that too. I think I'm going to have some of that gameplay playing while we do this interview when we actually publish on YouTube. So, in addition to that then, so I know we talked a little bit about the release. We were saying summer 2014 around July. How's that progress going? Do you think that that's a pretty good date still? It's always hard to set deadlines with indie developers.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Hopefully it will be done even before, so I can spend time just polishing it, making sure it's perfect. Because I think that's one of the upsides of making games since I was 10, is that because I know what takes longest, what can be done really quickly, and what you can finish till later, and what you can't leave till the end, it kind of helps with time management. And over the years, I've been terrible at it, but I've been able to work on it and work on it and work on it to realistically say, right, this is going to take this long. There we go. And like, obviously take into account if I run into any problems and it has to be delayed, etc. So I think July the 26th is the perfect date, because that gives enough time to polish without it being stuck on the shelf for ages.
Okay, and then that's going to be a full release at that point then, or are we like releasing to an open beta?
No, the open beta is available. Well, the alpha, sorry, is available now on Sora. So we are aiming for a full release, and then hopefully we're currently talking to some nice people over at Bulky Pix that hopefully doing a Steam release if the green light were to not get ideally where it should be, and also looking at doing some online boxed copies, which is pretty fun.
Wow, no, that definitely sounds great. I know in the description below, if you guys are watching, there's going to be the Greenlight link. There's going to be the Desura link for the alpha copy he's talking about as well. We'll also have the Indie DB page on there, so you guys can definitely see a lot of the artwork. Of course, I'm going to be playing a lot of it here in the video too. So kind of moving past that then, what are some of the most exclusive features that you're really excited about that's going to kind of set it apart? I know you said kind of mixing the N64 with the Dreamcast style platformers, which are definitely two different worlds. Are there some other concepts that you're really excited about as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't want to say we're definitely doing it, and then we pencil it out at the last minute and people are like, oh, why is that not in there? But I came up with the idea, like, taking from more modern games as opposed to older games into the mix. The funnest things I had growing up, apart from the platforming games and the shooting games, well, the endless shooting games, is the ability to be able to create something in the game and be able to show your friends, like, hey, I made this kick-ass map on Time Splitters, for example. So we are currently working on creating a very simple level builder for some of the more streamlined kind of levels, like more Dreamcasts orientated than Collectathon. But say you wanted to create a racing map with the things in distro, we're currently working completely on a system where we've thrown out the original, what you'll see in the video, the animations. We've completely reworked the animations to be able to work on crazy loops and really weird stuff, like if distro were to be running on a wall, if he used to swim. Basically, to cut a long story short, to create a level builder so people can create their own little racing maps to challenge their friends with and share, which has, not gonna lie, been very difficult, but we're almost at that stage that we can ship that into the alpha, which is on the Sora right now.
Wow, yeah, no, That definitely sounds great already. Really looking forward to that. I like being able to kind of put my own input back into things, and I think that's really great with indie games, especially because you know, you already made the game your own, and now others can kind of make it their own also, and kind of again just get into that creative process. So speaking of the creativity too, what would you say as we kind of wrap up here would be some of your best tips for people that are looking into getting into indie gaming as far as the development scene? You've obviously been doing it for a while with a lot of experience with Unity, Unreal Engine now, and other platforms.
If someone is listening to this now and they were like, I want to make an indie game, but I have no idea how, the best thing to do is to jump on Twitter at the hashtag indie dev and hashtag game dev hashtags, because the community there, even though Twitter seems like talking to a blank wall, the community behind the hashtags is phenomenal. Like you can ask any questions you have and they'll be there to answer it. You can show people what you're working on and get instant feedback. And learning that way, I wish I had that when I was 10 years old, because it would really help shape up my creative process and how I create things. But I think the community asset of things, because everyone wants to say, I want to make an indie game, and they do it all themselves, and they release it and they're like, oh, I wish I could have done this, that, and that. I wish someone would have told me. But making an indie game, you should involve the community in what you're doing, because they can help you without you noticing. Like, a lot of things with distro wouldn't have been there if it wasn't been from little suggestions from the various indie devs, and little tips like people saying, oh, the color's not right here, that light shouldn't be there. And it really helps create the game that you wish you want to, but you don't realize the little bits and pieces that you're not too sure should be there, shouldn't be there. So I definitely think the biggest tip would be to cut all of that. The biggest tip would be that don't be afraid to talk to other people for help or for feedback, or just to talk to them about your project or their project. Being part of a community is the best thing. Like with the Unreal Engine 4 out right now, the community on the forums over there is fantastic. If you're looking into indie games, that's something I highly recommend, especially at the price of Unreal Engine 4. It's very indie friendly, and the community behind it is just fantastic. Everyone's there to help everyone, and it's definitely the best stepping stone that I wish I had when I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, the only thing I could probably add to that is just don't be afraid that someone's going to steal your idea from the community. I know
Yeah, exactly.
when I was starting out and I was trying to reach out for different things, I didn't want to say any details about the game that I was working on until I had some sort of non-disclosure agreement or something like that. And you know, don't always be afraid of that. I mean, the indie community is really great and supportive, and they aren't all out to get you. So
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed a lot of newer devs doing now, which it's always been there, but it seems to be cropping up more as a problem now than it used to be, is the fact that people say, I have this awesome idea of a game, but I can't tell anyone about it until it's released. And the kind of, with the indie scene, you need as many people to know about it so they can help you out, so they can talk about it and generate buzz for your ideas. If you keep it all under wraps, then when it comes to release, how are people supposed to know about it? How are people supposed to be excited for it?
yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, without further ado then, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about the game at all, or about the studio, Ryan?
Um, Everyone should come work for me. No, I just, if everyone could check out the green light, give it a little thumbs up, hopefully, or just check out the indie database, give us some feedback. Hopefully you can put our email address somewhere. Contact at kitatusstudios.co.uk. Even if you come over to us and say your game's terrible, I hate you, I wish you would die, it's still feedback, and I love feedback.
Yep, and all of that information will be in the description, guys. So thank you again for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the time here, Ryan.
Yeah, I've loved it. Thanks, everyone.
Alrighty, and if you're also an indie dev yourself, or interested in having an interview or an indie game preview, please reach out to me. Here on YouTube's fine, or on Twitter as well. Otherwise, we do upload daily, so we'll see you next time, and we'll be back next week on Thursday for another interview. Thanks, and have a great day. Thank you so much for watching my video today, guys. Make sure you check out my indie game preview on Warriors of Delirium, as well as my indie gameplay series that started up. We're playing Bit Trip Runner over there. Also, make sure you guys check out yesterday's video. My 1 month anniversary includes a giveaway for Kitatus Studios for Super Distro. You guys will be getting a full copy of the release, and I'm giving away 25 keys right now. Maybe more in the future, but for now we're going to do 25 keys. So make sure you check out that video. It premiered yesterday. You got to look on my channel for it. And otherwise, subscribe if you like the content. We do upload daily, and we'll see you next time.